What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to Blood Splatter Chatter. My name is Verno. I got the usual suspects with me. We are talking Stir of Echoes from 1999 tonight, starring Kevin Bacon. This will be fun to get into. This was picked at the end of the last episode by none other than one Inja Binja. And actually, go ahead and introduce the crew, and then I'm going to tell you guys what we're going to do at the end of this episode. So, what up, Stu, my brother? Welcome back.
What up, guys? Thank you for having me back. So great to be here with y'all tonight. Excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, this should be a fun one. We're on a little run here of ghost stories, which is kind of highlighted to me how little we really do cover not just ghost stories, but these ones that fall into this realm of like more spooky, creepy tales. So it's been kind of interesting to.
Dude, I'm always a
spend
sucker for
few
like the late '99, early 2000s horror films. That's right up my alley. So this one was fun with its good and its bad.
Right. Oh, definitely for sure. Mr. Fable, welcome back to Blood Splatter Chatter.
Station. What's up, guys? Always happy to cover the Baconator.
I wasn't gonna Fable. I had a random ADHD question. My bad.
No, go ahead, bro.
No. You're going. If I thought Verno thought I was about to say, "Yo," we said Fable.
No, get it in, brother. I want to hear the question.
No, what's that? What's like the synchronicity? Like when like movies will release. Like, say for instance, they had that Friends with Benefits movie, Justin Timberlake, Mila Kunis, and like Ashton Kutcher and someone else had did something similar to that.
The same idea,
Right.
yeah,
like just done in different. This was like very, you could say like Sixth Sense in this are very similar.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Like what is that called? Like how does something like that happen?
Plus, it's like The Haunting came out this year, which everybody talks so much shit about now, but I remember like enjoying it at the time. I don't know if you guys remember that one. I was actually thinking about that. I feel like this is a bit of this like little run of ghost stories is a response to the oversaturation of the slashers that came out of Scream. You know what I mean? Everybody got kind of sick of that and kind of went to this. And this is also part of that like soft horror trend that led us to the torture porn era. This is part of what people were kind of sick of when torture porn started. You know what I mean? These more glossy, and it falls in line with the other element that a lot of those glossier horror movies of the 90s have is a big name in it. You know what I mean? Like Fable, when we talked about Jacob's Ladder, all those 90s movies, Interview with the Vampire, even Dusk Till Dawn. There's a lot of like big A-list celebrities that ended up in the horror movies.
Plus, I think there's like a bunch of scripts laying on a producer's desk or something like that. And when one of these hits, he's like, "Don't we got something like that? Didn't we get
exactly?
Like that? Like,
we got something similar to that."
Exactly, because this is adapted from a book from the 50s written by Richard Matheson, who was like a big deal. He's the guy that wrote I Am Legend, The Shrinking Man, What Dreams May Come. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. What became a Robin Williams movie? Yeah. I was gonna say, directed by David Koepp, and he's most known as a writer. He's directed a few movies. He did Secret Window, which was a Stephen King adaptation with Johnny Depp, and then in 2020, him and the Baconator, they got back together and they did another like ghost kind of horror movie called You Should Have Left, which has pretty ratings. It's like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. But as a screenwriter, this man has shaped all of our lives. He wrote, or he was one of the screenplay writers for Death Becomes Her, Jurassic Park, Carlito's Way, the first Spider-Man movie, War of the Worlds, and then on the downside, he did Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny. Yeah, which people are a little. I haven't seen either of them. I know that nobody is a fan of those last few movies.
Let me ask you a question. When did Ghost come out with Patrick Swayze and Whoopi?
91, I think.
91. Yeah, because that might have set off a lot of shit. That movie was like huge.
Oh, yeah, for sure, dude. And ghost movies, they tend to jump those genres a little bit. You got all sorts of different like tones for a ghost movie. What up, Mr. E, my brother? What up, Kenneth Bird? You little son of a bitch, riding hard with that K. All right, I won't bitch about your profile anymore. He owning that K. But all right, well let's dive into it, man. Has everybody seen this? Because for me, I think I saw it. I think I saw it, but I really didn't remember it till like it got to the end. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty fucking sure I remember seeing this part, but it wasn't one for me that like really stuck with me. I don't think it was one that I was way into back in the day. I definitely didn't remember that I had seen it until I was watching the movie. But Stu, had you seen it?
No, I really don't think I had, because it felt like a first time watch all the way through for me. Like this is one of those movies I feel like you hear about and you either seen it or you haven't, but yeah, this one fell into the haven't seen it category for me. There was nothing that rang familiar with it, so it was a original viewing experience for me. Which was
what'd you think?
It's okay, man. Sometimes I feel like I feel like there's good mystery in parts of it, and I feel like they do a good job of mixing it up and keeping you guessing at times. At other times, I feel like it's entirely predictable and like drawn out and a little too much with some scenes or the other. They also have subplots that don't really reconcile. I would have liked to have learned more about the policeman and the whole cadre of other people who are seers or whatever. Exactly. The sun was the shining star of the show, and really
shining emphasis on the shining part.
Right? He should have been like, honestly though, we should have had a little bit more of him, I think, and a little bit less of just the digging like manicness of it all. But however, I thought it was okay, man. It was interesting. Like I said, I've got a soft spot for movies, and especially like horror or drama or thrillers or anything like from around that time period. So there was an element of nostalgia for me, but I don't know. It had a hits and misses. I think Bacon was immaculate in that role, though. Yeah. I think he really wore it out, especially the blue collar thing, the life unlived, being ordinary. I think we could have done more to dive into like the musician who wasn't and all that, but
yeah. Regardless, or the telephone repairman who makes calls from the telephone pole during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a monkey could do that. No, a monkey could most definitely not do that, bro.
A monkey could do that.
I mean, yes and no. But I don't know. There was parts I loved, there was parts I hated, there was parts that I thought could have been a lot stronger and given us a better story. I thought they had good characters or like a good framework of characters, but I don't know, man. This one left me wanting a little bit more. But I thought Bacon carried the show. Like yet another underrated role from him. So shout out to that guy. And the kid was amazing as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into what that kid did, because the whole time I'm like, well, I fucking know this kid. I will send it to you in a second, Fable. I will say, like, I was the first 15-20 minutes, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I'm like edge of my seat. I'm comparing it to Oculus that we watched last week, and I'm like, yeah, this is like less corny and a more serious fucking like a ghost story. But then it did start to like divert and kind of go all over the place, and it wasn't, by the end of it, it wasn't the movie that I thought it was gonna be, I guess. And obviously we'll get more into that, but I did enjoy it. I was entertained like the whole way. I was never like bored by it.
For sure.
There was a little like chunk in the middle where I felt like it slowed down and the pacing had issues, but for the most part, I was into it and I enjoyed it. And it's, it's a solid film, but it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be off the bat.
I think it kind of rings true to what you were saying about like in the 90s, a lot of movies were star driven. It's like vehicles for those stars to just kind of do what they do, like Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura, The Mask. That nowadays movies aren't really geared towards that. They're more story over like the actor. But I think that was like people were probably going to see Kevin Bacon in a ghost story,
totally.
Not itself. So I think that was a big draw, where it's like some of those meandering scenes where it's just kind of like the same shit of Kevin Bacon losing his mind. Yes, could have probably been trimmed, tightened up for the plot, but it's like back in the 90s, that shit worked, you know? Like
I was even going to say, this is something that I feel like Robbie pointed out a while back, and now I always notice it when I see based on a novel. I'll pay attention to like who the perspective characters are, and there's that chunk where all of a sudden the wife is the perspective character, and like it loses something. You kind of lose the baconness of it all, and then her plot line doesn't go anywhere. And I feel like I'm not usually the best at picking up on Like one of you guys will be like, that plot line didn't go anywhere. I'm like, oh, yeah, it fucking didn't. But like this one, it was really obvious. Like, what about these people in that basement? Like, is that part 2? Like, what is going on? I couldn't believe it never went back there. And I guess she got what she was going for. When the wife went there, she got the information and didn't need to go back. But I feel like we needed to know a little bit more about what was going on with that secret, society in the basement. But what do you think, Fable?
I agree with Stu on a lot of things he's saying. I think it was totally predictable, even though I have seen it before. Oh, well, let me just preface by saying I saw this when it came out, and I remember loving it. Right, I didn't have any of the problems that I have now on this watch back then. Right, and maybe it's due to what Link is saying. Maybe I was just trying to get a bacon cheeseburger. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I gotta say it is very predictable, and it does meander in some parts.
There is, yes, straight to DVD. Sorry.
And the only thing that I would disagree with Stu on is that, we all there's a crew member named Jelani, and there's a running joke that Jelani hates child actors. Well, I think this movie makes a strong case for Jelani.
I thought he was pretty good.
Child was fucking horrendous. I'm sorry.
I gotta look him up now.
Oh man, yeah.
Anakin was in a Star Wars movie, Jake Lloyd, and he worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Sinbad. What has this kid done?
Damn. All right, that's how we rolling.
Yeah,
I thought he had a good look. They didn't overuse him, that's for sure. I thought not just with him. There's a lot of like little corny moments. First of all, I laughed at just like the jokes that they put in here quite a bit. There's some funny moments, but there was some like so corny that I laughed moments sprinkled throughout too.
Facts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as soon as he was talking to the screen, I was like, "Get this fucking kid out."
It's the only movie he's ever done. This is it. This is it. It's the only thing.
Surprise. You see what I mean? I'm not crazy.
Surprise. He's watching this right now. He's watching it.
Yeah.
He watches every live show and review about this, and he's like, God damn.
Here it comes again. Zachary David Cope. Let's just get him out there. Let's call him by
Zach,
name.
You killed it, bro. I'm repping for you, dog. You killed it.
Age 30 now.
Yeah, he's feeling it. He's right there with it.
But, when I guess my biggest issues, and we'll get to it, I guess, is the ending. Even though it's sort of predictable, but not sort of predictable, but that's not my problem with it. But we'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the most part.
Nice. Hell yeah. And I will say after we hear my man Link's thoughts, I'm gonna show you guys in the chat at the end of this show, because I enjoyed letting you guys pick this movie so much, and this is the last chance we'll have to do that until after Horror Fest, because all the movies are picked out. I've picked a handful of movies that I wanted to do, so I'm gonna let all of us get a vote. Link, Fable, Stu, you guys get a vote, and everybody in the chat gets a vote, and we'll vote on what we're doing next week. But Steph, you had seen this one before. How was the rewatch?
Oh yeah. Like Fable was saying, this is one I think I used to watch this a lot as a certain time. I didn't have cable as a younger kid. I had a select few VHS tapes. This X-Men, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, the second one, not the first one. Those are like the only VHS and Toy Story. But at a certain age, when I was like 12, I wasn't trying to watch Toy Story. I was a little edgy. I still loved it. Still love it now. I watch it now, but
12, I keep one by me at all times, just an extra copy.
Let's go, bro.
I got a 2-year-old. I need it all time.
You got nothing but Chucky and Mike Myers in the background. You just pull out the Toy Story disc.
That's classic. But I used to love this. I think it, like I said earlier, I think it's a product of its time. And at the time when it came out, this was new. They weren't really doing shit like this when it comes to horror. Now, fucking 25 years later, of course, we've seen many movies of this ilk that have probably done it better. But I will say that I think the plot, the story is a little weak overall. Like, it introduces a lot of plot elements that it never really lands on, or reveals what was the point of them. But I will say it's got strong performances from the cast. the kids kind of sucked ass, like the teenage sons, they sucked ass. The son sucked ass.
Yes.
But everything else was great. You know, this dad from Transformers and Small Soldiers, which I just kind of realized, I was like, was that supposed to be like a Transformers movie? You know, imagine if the Argonauts or whatever and the Commandos were like Decepticons and Autobots. Could be a Transformers spirit. But he was great. The dude with the weird stash, he was fine. The wife was great. She was amazing. She I only kind of switched the perspective of her as being the focal point, because she was she seemed so solid as like a rock type of character. Like, you know, her son's kind of a weirdo, her husband's turning into a weirdo, and she's just kind of like,
her sister's a weirdo.
Yeah.
Everybody rocks.
No, but I love their blue collar situation. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like those stakes felt real. Like, as someone who's been living a check to check, like more or less for most of his life, I don't know. Like that felt very believable and very tangible. And I thought that was one of the stronger points of the movie to me. The situation they were in.
Right.
To that point, Kevin Bacon and his performance with that lifestyle, I think, was like, it kind of, you know, it sells the movie. Like it does hinge on Kevin Bacon. I like how he starts off as like this. He kind of starts off as cool Kevin Bacon, you know, and over the course of the film deteriorates into this kooky, this dude's losing his shit. You know, she's asking him a question. He's like, I remember this, and he's talking to himself and shit. I remember this note. I remember this note. So the deterioration over the course of the film was cool, but you know, it's all right. Look, it's not terrible, but I think it was definitely a product of its time. I liked it a little bit better back in the day than I did on this viewing, but I still was entertained by the Baconator.
Right. This has me thinking like his obsession and his kind of deterioration through the film. It's a lot like Travolta in Blowout a few weeks ago. And what's funny is like, and I said the same thing about Vertigo from Hitchcock. It's like by the end of the movie, you don't necessarily like them as much. Like I don't like dislike Kevin Bacon by the end, but he's not doing a lot to make me like him. He's being an ass to his wife, and it's just like, it's interesting to have that balance of having these characters that are obsessed, and then by the end of the movie, it's hard to get behind them. And I feel like there's a touch of that in this for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because he is.
I think that kind of played to the way he's going through though. Like he's like instead. That's one thing I did like. Because it wasn't really like, they did have ghostly images in this, but it wasn't necessarily like a jump scare movie. It was more like suspenseful and thriller. But I like the fact that it was like him being bothered by stuff so much, not him seeing ghosts and scaring him left and right. Like it was just like they would put something, like he would see images and couldn't get that shit out of his mind until he did what they wanted it to do. So
well, if I compare it to Blowout, I think it's more believable that he was obsessed than Blowout or a lot of like the thrillers I was comparing it to. Like you totally buy that because he's seeing this ghostly image that he would get obsessed with it. Where some of those other movies, like, why do you care so much?
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's a good point, John Travolta. Like, bro, you have nothing to do with it.
Yeah. There's nothing to do with you anymore. Yeah. Hell yeah. Did you have more, my brother?
Oh no, I think it's a solid movie though. I just think that I think it's gonna be for someone who's seen it for the first time, they're gonna get way more enjoyment out of it. This is like a one and done type of deal. You know, upon further watches, you kind of start seeing how weak the plot is, and like how some things don't really make sense. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's not meant to be answered, but it's like it bothered me. It was like, why there's so many things they kind of introduce elements to and don't expand upon. Like, why is he psychic? Why is his son
the babysitter?
You know,
the babysitter element. They get something out of her, but I feel like I don't know. Most movies, you don't just introduce someone like that and then forget about the babysitter and her mom. Maybe, I guess you don't need her. She was just a way to get the information. But I think like what a good writer would have done is tie all those things together. When the mom has to go off and learn more about it, she might go with the babysitter. You know what I mean? Something like that would make all that actually be cohesive.
Or how his child actively talks to this ghost but doesn't tell his father shit.
Yeah. He's sitting there, wake up, talk to me. It's like, talk to him. But it scares mommy. E says it's like a what if story for The Shining. What if Jack Torrance wasn't a douchebag. Yeah.
No, but the kid could have gave up the goods from the beginning. Like, yeah, her name was Sabrina, right? Or
Samantha.
Like Samantha told me that she's in the fucking wall.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or it's like, what it was that he, like Fable said, he didn't bring up the fact that he was seeing ghosts to his parents, but when they fucking Sam's sister, who was her first time babysitting for that family, out of the blue, he's like, I'm going to tell this random babysitter who's the sister of this ghost that I'm talking to. I'm going to tell her that I see her. Like, it's like you said, a good writer would have connected these threads and maybe, you know, like you said, had the mom investigate further about, you know, when did your daughter go missing? Then, it bothered me that they were only in the house for 6 months, or like she had been missing. All that shit happened eventually 6 months ago, but I felt like they had been in that house longer than that. Like,
even like the real-time situation of him being afflicted by all these visions and thoughts like that, and him and the kid are on the couch together. He's taking a week off of work and whispering with the kid and playing weird guitar tunes, and like, girl, something is going on. Like, I don't know how many days in a row you need of that behavior to know like something's gone sour. But come on.
On that note, the friend, the one who's actually, I know her from Goodfellas. She's one of the chicks in Goodfellas. The one that does the hypnosis thing on him in the first place. She's taking it all very lightly. You know what I mean? She's just there for comic relief. And it's like, dude, you broke my brain and I'm seeing ghosts now. She's like, oh, you'll be fine. It's like,
sleep it off.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask y'all this. After the initial hypnosis session, did y'all think he had like killed somebody and repressed that memory or something like that?
I want to see that movie.
So like, that's where I thought it was kind of going. Like, he had done something horrible, because there was that shout out to like that kid in his past, Joey DeLuca or whatever. Yeah. What his name is, and another unresolved plot line that I haven't heard that name, and I haven't heard that name in like how long. And so I was like, oh, did he kill somebody? And we eventually learned that those visions were like of the front porch and Samantha and all that stuff. But for 10 minutes of that movie, I was like, well, this dude has killed somebody before in his childhood. He's had some awful incident and he's repressed it. That's a good.
Was it Flatliners?
Yeah, right.
Didn't boy in Flatliners? Maybe
Joey DeLuca.
Yeah.
They picked that thread up there 8 years earlier or whatever the fuck it was. What's funny is like most of the issues that it seems like we all kind of have with it are on the writing end. I think it's solidly directed, and this guy is known as being one of the top screenwriters in Hollywood with all the projects that he's done.
Did he write this?
Yeah, he wrote this. He's only directed like 4 movies. He wrote like a ton of movies and he directed one. He wrote a bunch of other big ones. And he'll just every now and then he'll pick a project to direct, and most of them are horror movies or like thriller, ghost type movies. But interesting, man.
On that, this is another random question, but I really want to get some feedback on this. What do you guys think of David S. Goyer? Like, he's been attached to I almost feel like he's just gotten lucky throughout his whole career and just happened to have right ideas. You don't know David Goyer?
No.
Oh, he wrote all the Blade movies, wrote and directed, was supposed to write and direct the third Blade movie. He helped write Batman vs Superman, I believe. Man of Steel, I think he helped Christopher Nolan on all of his Batman movies. He wrote the script for Batman Begins, but helped come up with the story for the last 2. Like, he's attached to all these great things, but anytime he does something on his own, like The Invisible, I don't know if you've ever seen this. Kid is like in a coma, and his spirit is like only his friend gets to see it. It came out like 2007. It's got the dude who. This is another far reach. But have you ever seen Dragon Ball Evolution? The dude who played Goku, Justin Chatwin is his name. He was in. He's the main movie. But that and like Blade Trinity, if it would have been made, would have been ass. Those 2 examples of. But he's attached to so many other great projects. I'm like, here, that work out. You think it's just luck, or he's actually got something in him?
Well, it's kind of the same thing with this. It's like maybe this guy's like strength, or in like when he's working with a group, and people are like, oh, I've got great ideas, but like when he's writing the movie, he can't fully execute or something.
Yeah, it's like
he's a great collaborator.
Damon Lindelof, what's his name? Damon Lindelof.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like a great writer, but he also wrote the Transformers movies, which suck ass.
No, he didn't. No,
he helped write those shits, man.
Man, this over did the Stacy Rico, or I forget that, Robert Kurtzman or whatever. They
Kurtzman and Lindelof. They're like a team. Those guys. They help write those movies, but yet they make some good shit.
Yeah, they have. Damn, they make Transformers, huh?
Before we carry on, for you guys that are in here, when we wrap up here, these are the choices that you have for what we're going to do next Thursday, which will be the last week before Horror Fest begins, which some lesser shows might take that week off. Not us, Rock and Robbie Billups, who does 12 other videos a week. But we'll be here. So we can get together with the homies and just play horror trivia. This might be what I will be voting for because it's laid back. It's super chill. We don't got to watch any extra movies, take any extra notes, and we can just have a chill week before we get into Horror Fest. I know at least Steph and I have a bunch of fucking Paranormal Activity movies to watch before Horror Fest kicks off over on PCP. So this might be great. So again, we'll be voting on this. All of us, you guys in the chat and us on the panel at the end of the show. We can do horror trivia, or we can do Halloween 2. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We finished Horror Fest last year with Halloween 1. If we don't do this next week, we'll do it the week after Horror Fest ends, while Halloween is still fresh in the air. Or we could do Dario Argento's first movie, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Oh,
what a title.
This would be interesting. This would be interesting for us to do. It's the first Giallo we would have ever done, and it's one of the biggest Giallos ever made. Or we could do total change of pace. Jeepers Creepers, right? I tried to put a blend in here of a bunch of different types of things. Jeepers Creepers, Justin Long. Bro. This is a big one for people of the era. This is like a huge fucking movie. Or Killer Clowns from Outer Space, 1988. This almost made the Horror Fest lineup. Some 80s cheese, which we don't nearly do quite enough of on this channel, which is fine. It's not necessarily our strong suit, but I think we got to squeeze it in when we can squeeze it in. And this is one of the more popular ones. Or Alfred Hitchcock's Rope from 1948, baby. Come on. Or we can do that, which is a movie we're going to do eventually. I've been on this big Hitchcock kick. At one point, I want to watch this movie. I want to do Rear Window, and I want to do Vertigo before we do Psycho. And
I just watched this like 2 weeks ago on your recommendation.
You did? You didn't like it?
I loved it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I was just about to say, invite me for those Hitchcocks, man.
All right. So again, it's horror trivia, Halloween 2, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Dario Argento's first film, Jeepers Creepers, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or Rope. So hang on to that. Stick around to the end of the episode. We can all vote and we'll find out what we're doing next week. Wow. All right. So let's pick up where we were. We've touched on like basically most of this, but I'm sure we can dive a little deeper into it. Let's start with like just like how it functions as a horror movie, because I think it started out kind of strong on that front, but that's one of my, I feel like I'm going to say a lot of negative things about this movie, even though I did enjoy it, but I don't think it has any like real like super strong suit outside of the cast and the performances and just like the production value. But where it didn't really function for me properly is as far as working as a horror movie, the stakes weren't there. I never felt like the Bacon, he could have been a lot more afraid. Like he could have spent a chunk of the movie being afraid of this before becoming obsessed with it. And his obsession with trying to solve this crime, there was no fear in that for me. And there's no one ever being threatened until the end of the movie, where it's the only time that there's any kind of threat whatsoever. So I feel like that's where it fell the shortest for me. But Stu, what did you think of it as a horror movie?
I thought it was kind of like non-existent as a horror movie, honestly, man. Like very little horror to it, but regardless, I thought it was like more of a suspense mystery type of movie. And it kind of worked. It kind of worked in that capacity, but yeah, man, as far as like the horror aspect of it, I agree with I think what Link said about the two teenage dudes they had in that scene, that they did not carry that scene well. I thought that scene could have been a lot more malevolent and like nasty and ill-natured, as like given the subject matter and what we were talking about, and also the casting with the girl. She was supposed to be, you know, disabled, like mentally, like none of that really carried over in that scene. She just seemed awkward and weird. It didn't feel like there was some type of disability and they were really taking advantage of it. So I feel like if you're going to go there. And also, I don't know why we expected the film to go there when they hadn't really given us anything up to that point. You know what I mean? It wasn't that type of movie. So I feel like if that's what you're going to try to do and really shock us on you know, in that payday scene, like, you know, make it worth its while. And like the whole her dying with the bro grabbed the sheet of plastic, like, you know, it just felt like halfway unrealistic and just not worth the payday. I thought they could have done a lot better, like conveying the horror of what had gone on, than what we got with both like the performances and the setup and just the cinematography. The whole thing didn't work for me. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it had good elements as far as suspense and mystery, but that's about as far as it goes, man. I don't think it really crossed the threshold into horror in any type of legitimate way for me.
Right. I think the most that we get is like the body horror of that fingernail. That's like the most like visceral bit of it. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you. What
talking to him? I mean, you know, that is technically horror.
Right. But I mean, there's a way to do it where it's scary. Like I never felt like he was even scared. I mean, for a minute there he was, but he wasn't like reacting in the scary way. I wish there would have been a threat to the kid or something, but he was on the ghost side, so you never felt that. But what do you think, Fable? Was it scary at all? Was there any scary moments?
I mean, the couch scenes made me jump. Not gonna lie to you. Even all these years later, I was still like, "Oh shit!" when she was on the couch, and I was like, "Oh crap," you know. And I thought the beginning did gear towards the horror because
the start.
Because you know, when they're at the party and he's doing the whole hypnotized thing, that's kind of scary, you know, going through the screen or whatever the hell it was. And then, you know, seeing the red and all that stuff, I thought that was kind of scary. Whenever you saw the girl, it was like red and shit.
That's true. That was cool.
Yeah, I was like, that's pretty cool. But then it just like everything in this movie, it loses that, right, through most of the movie because it doesn't see red for anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right? Exactly, dude. Like yet another. I forgot about that. Yet another unresolved thing.
Yeah. And then it's like I think the writers or the director kind of noticed that themselves, like, oh shit, we're marketing this as a horror movie. Okay, let's put in the guy saying that she's gonna be a pissed off ghost, and then she gets pissed off and she starts messing with them and shit like that. And I thought that's when they try to rub that shit back up. But again, she never really did nothing bad to them. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like, it was the music and the combination of her appearing in mirrors and shit like that. That was like, but then it goes away kind of again. And then they bring it back when she's getting, you know, kind of raped and stuff. It's like, okay, let's just show some nasty shit. Her tooth comes out, boom, or fucking, you know what I mean? Or fingernails get.
That makes me think of the one scene that I definitely appreciated the cinematography on, and they used practical effects for it, is when he pulled that tooth out of the mirror or while looking in the mirror. I thought that was pretty cool. I actually read something on Wikipedia. Yeah. The way they did it is basically the way it looks, where it's a fake tooth on his teeth, and he pulls it out, and then off camera, like he's got another tooth in his hand. He drops that, the camera goes to that. Someone came in and cleaned and wiped his teeth up, and then went back to him. And I just think that's cool. I love little things like that.
Yeah.
That most of that would be done in the computer now.
You'd think I'd hate, you know, rape scenes and stuff like that, but this is one I think is like Stu said, it needed it. It needed it, but it might have been that 90s, like, we're trying to be soft, we can't show this kind of shit. You know what I mean? It would have been too much for that time, but I think it needed to show her getting roughed up a little bit. Instead of just a bag over the camera.
Yeah,
you know,
you needed the horror of the crime to know, like, what the horror of what these people did in the cover up. You know what I mean?
Not around the time of like Blair Witch, first person angles where they were.
That's a good point.
The product of time, you know, at the time the shit was popping. What they were doing in this movie was cool at the time, but we've seen so much of it. We've been desensitized to a lot of shit that was going on in this movie, but was like new at the time when it was coming out.
Yeah.
Right.
But you needed Alice to see her life leave her body. Like she, you know, you need to see her face.
That's a good point. I would have liked to see her dead body laying there. Allison says this movie suffered for me landing after The Sixth Sense, which is super true. This came out right after that, which everyone was so hyped about. They seemed more similar in theme at the time, and it was harder to enjoy it on its own terms instead of comparing the two. I could totally see that.
Yeah, man.
Because that was so fucking big.
To that right scene or that messed up scene, it reminded me of like Mystic River, if you guys have ever seen that, which is also starring Kevin Bacon.
Bro,
right.
yes.
Haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember loving it.
Oh my God,
out.
such a great film.
But it had a very similar scene where two teenage boys assault a girl. But in that scene, like there was stakes and emotion. But I mean, there was a lot of going on with Mystic River, but like the execution of that scene in Stir of Echoes was kind of hokey, like camp.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, like even when they're doing the flashback and he's like, "Hey, come over here, I want to show you something." It reminds me of like a bad like infomercial with the acting or something. Like it didn't.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They were the worst part. Somebody mentioned it, but they really sucked.
I just want to say this, like that's a great point Link just made, because I remember the cinematography in Mystic River when Tim Robbins' character got sexually abused by these guys posing as cops. And I remember they pulled up on Tim Robbins as a kid, and I remember the back door opened, and like he looked in the back door, and the car floor was dirty, right? And it just didn't look like a police car. And it was that one simple shot that told you so much. And like he hesitated to get in, and it was like, so that's a great point Link makes. Like they could have done so much more right there with just a few simple shots to show us like the horrificness of that situation and like the savageness of what was about to go down to that girl, like so much better than they did.
Right.
Like
Mystic River was Clint Eastwood, by the way. I thought so.
Director?
He
Wow,
directed that one.
he killed that. That movie is special. Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
But Link, did you have anything more on the horror before we move on?
I like everyone. This kind of the general gist is like the first 20 minutes of this film are cool in terms of it kind of sets itself up as like it could be like an interesting horror, but it quickly just becomes like a great thriller. It's a thriller, suspenseful movie, but it's like a thriller with horror elements, like because the horror is so far and few, even though it's there, like the ghost stuff. But that's about it. Like, you know, even though I like it, you know, I like it because of that. There's not many jump scares, which probably would have helped strengthen the argument that this works as a horror movie. But I really do think it's just like a thriller with horror elements, you know, because there's really not too many beyond the couch scene. There's really not too many moments they're gonna have you like, oh, you know, or just kind of give you a rise.
But most of it, especially once you're caught onto what's going on, you know that this girl is just there trying to get answers. She's not really a threat. They're all on the same side, which is why the ending goes the way it does. Like we could touch more. I guess we've already touched on. I was gonna say let's talk more about like the mystery element of it, which is what we've done for the most of the show. Really, we've touched on that's what it is. It's just little clues that he's getting throughout, and a lot of times those are like my least favorite parts of a lot of shows. I'm not usually that into the investigation part, like in The Ring. Like I'm not as into them, like searching for clues and looking for answers and all that. And in this, most of it is like almost given to him. He's not out there looking for stuff. The ghosts are coming and giving him the clues, which is cool. That's not like a downside to me. But I kind of figured, what up, Madison? You want to say hi? Okay. I just want to put my lips on that big black thing in your face.
What the fuck?
That's what she said. Sorry, I mean,
mess me out with that
one. Now we're my mind.
No, I have a quick question I wanted to ask. Well, like there's another plot. The more I didn't really dawn on me until just now, but it's like just the weak plot threads introduced are not making sense. It's like the kid was already on that type of ghost talking tip, ghost whispering tip at the beginning of the movie. Kevin Bacon was a mid 40-year-old man who didn't get that shit until he was hypnotized. You know, like I'm like, whoa, where's this? I don't know, where's the connection? You know, like,
well, they said like he's part of the 8%, so he is highly susceptible, highly sensitive. But I assume like the kid is part of the 1%.
Is the golden child?
Yeah, he's Danny Torrance.
Oh, okay.
Totally.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I thought it was.
I think
I always want to say funny, but I guess it wasn't funny. It's like the sad truth of the era. Right off the bat, when they go to that party, they're in this Chicago neighborhood, and they go to this party. There's like 40 people on this porch. First of all, I'm thinking, this is like fucking awesome neighborhood, dude. I want to live there. But then I look at it, I'm like, everybody's white. Like, find me this fucking Chicago neighborhood with not a single black or Mexican amongst them all.
Chicago is that right next to the train? I don't understand that, but yeah. So go ahead.
I thought that was, and then the one black guy you get. I've said this before. Like, there needs to be a different term for it. There is a horror trope that Stephen King is one that he almost invented the trope. I won't say what the term is, but I'll say it like this: magical black person, right? And that's what I always look at it as a writer that wants to be like, oh, I don't want to look racist. If there's a cop, I'm gonna make it a black guy. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna put him in that like. Yeah. But what unintentionally what they do, and you'll find this throughout so much cinema, they put a character in that is only there. He has no purpose in the movie but to help the white people. He doesn't have a backstory. He doesn't have a family. Just like the guy in The Shining, he has nothing. He's just going to his beach house and laying on his bed and thinking about the Torrance family.
That's why
they're either from Haiti or New Orleans.
Yeah, often, yeah.
Especially if they
yeah, it's a wild dialect.
Just because, you know.
But if you look through Stephen King's, like the guy from The Green Mile, there's the guy from The Shining. Fucking, I feel like half of Morgan Freeman's roles are that. It's one of those things that sounds like silly when you bring it up, but it is. Like my wife points it out all the fucking time. Shawshank Redemption, yeah.
Good luck, Massa. You know, that was kind of like his role he was fulfilling in that bitch.
I always think of Tangia from Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Like there's spirits in there, and she has that real Southern New Orleans accent. This house is clean.
I'm looking it up right now. Fuck it. Pre-90s, we had Uncle Remus, Dick Halloran, famous one, Guinan from Star Trek. You could definitely say that. Guinan she's nothing. Never ever happens with Guinan. She's just there to help people. But I don't know. I think of it as like a way that like, oh, we were trying to do the right thing, but it's like you didn't. You really didn't. You thought you were being nice, but you didn't think deep about it.
Wasn't this guy the dude in the Fall of the House of Usher, that Netflix series? Did y'all watch that?
I didn't see it. No.
Okay, I think the guy who played the policeman was
You can call him
yeah. Thank you, Link. Thank you. Appreciate that permission, bro. Yeah.
He was the police officer. He saw ghosts. The black dude, the only black dude in the film.
Oh wow, they've got Morpheus written down here as Morpheus being that. I don't know. Morpheus seems like he's got a little bit more than that. Bagger Vance. The list goes on and on. Man. All right. So let's touch on the end.
Let me defend Morpheus real quick. Just okay.
Yes, please.
Yes, you could say he was fulfilling Neo, right? He's making sure he helps the white man. But in a sense, Neo wouldn't have been shit if Morpheus hadn't sought him out. He would have just he would have never believed in himself. So Morpheus is
there's definitely an element like they're more connected to the old ways or more connected to the earth in some way, and these white people are just so into their modern times that they're so ignorant they've lost their way.
100%. Colonizer tendencies.
100%.
Definitely that element.
Well, fuck it. Since we're on this subject and we're preparing for those Paranormal Activity movies, I'm watching through them. They get to the fifth one, and all of a sudden it's like 2014, and the entire cast is Mexican. The first non-white people in the whole franchise. And I'm like, okay, what year is it? Okay, this checks and everything. I just noticed shit like that. But I look who directed it and who wrote it, and it's Christopher Landon, the guy that did Freaky and a couple other things.
No shit.
Yeah, he's a prominent guy. And so this is a white guy that directed this movie full of Mexicans. Within the first couple of minutes, you've got some vatos that are robbing motherfuckers. You've got a grandma drinking tequila. There's like all these stereotypes, like bam, 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 right in a row. I'm like, see, like they thought they were doing the right thing, but they didn't. They still didn't. But all right.
right?
Hey, there's some vatos that drink tequila, man.
No, I know, but
Stereotype.
you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it was like 4
But bro, the first 10 minutes of the
stereotypes
movie,
yeah.
Yeah,
like
no,
you're
I know
getting
what you're
everything.
saying. I know what you're saying. I
Is
get
it?
it. I
Did a
get
drive-by just happen?
it.
All right, so let's hit the ending, which we've touched on. For me, I've said it a bunch of times, man. I am not the biggest like predictor of movies. My wife, we could be watching like the opening credits, and she'd be like, "Fucking Professor Plum did it with the wrench in the library." She figures everything out. I'm really not like that, but right away, I'm like, this best friend is clearly involved. You know that he's involved, and they introduce his son. And I bet he like I was picking up on all this stuff. It was laid down so thick, but plus there was no other like red herrings. Like that's why I don't think it functioned that well as a mystery, because there was nowhere else to go. There was no other characters in the movie. If you didn't think it was Kevin Bacon that killed this girl or her his wife or the kid, then it had to be the best friend and it had to be the landlord. So that's why the mystery didn't work. But the ending, the way it all unfolds, I did think like was exciting and entertaining. Like you can't really deny that. I was into it. But what about you, Stu?
Yeah,
go ahead,
dude.
Steph, if you got something to say.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
No, I was gonna say, and it had me torn just because there's so many corny things going on, but I caught moments where I was like, oh, Kevin Bacon's doing really good though. You know,
You know what?
The dad, they find the girl in the wall. He's like, what was I supposed to do? He kept fucking whining about how this is a decent neighborhood, and he like makes Kevin Bacon go upstairs, and you hear the gunshot. Like, what the fuck? He just shot the ground. Like, and at the very when he needs to save the day, you know, comes charging out like the knight in shining armor and shoots the other dudes that were about to kill Kevin Bacon and his wife. But it's like, you just been downstairs this whole goddamn time. You didn't hear the You just
like, get out of here, man. And then you hear the gunshot. It's like, clearly he killed himself, right?
That bothered me. But I did enjoy Kevin Bacon's acting during that whole ordeal when like they're confronting him and he's like, he seems really nervous and like this stuttering over his words. I didn't mean that, I could appreciate that.
I like the line where they're like talking about the water main isn't in the basement. I know that now.
I know that. That was great, but like just the timing of it, and it's like the way he let them come in his house. I was like, you're a bitch, bro. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Seriously, bro, you just figured it out. Like, why are you letting that do?
It crossed my mind of like the themes from The Invitation and movies like that, like being a little too polite for your own good. This isn't the time to be like, I don't want to piss these guys off on my porch. But like, get the fuck out of here. I feel threatened for my life.
Bro, you just had the vision. You just got nearly frozen to death having the vision that this dude on your porch was like had a hand in killing the homegirl. Like, why are you gonna let him and his dad in who were clearly trying to murder you?
Dude, but before I forget about it, I gotta bring it up because we've been praising Kevin Bacon a lot, and I love the Bacon just as much as the next guy, and I do think he carries this movie. But the line where he's outside digging, and his wife is like telling him to stop digging, he's getting all high. He's like, I won't stop. Like, I thought that was like the corniest fucking shit ever. It's like, really? You can't take another take of that one?
When the son gets kidnapped and he fucking, she's got the boy, and he's like jetting across. She's like, where are you going?
Yo, I don't know.
And he's like, I don't know. And he's just so like, funny.
Like I laughed so hard. I don't know. And he's just like, I don't know. It's
there
like,
were so many random scenes like that. Like, what was the scene when she was walking down the alley, right? And the fire escape ladder was down, and you thought she was going to go up it, and then some random dude just like ran by her and ran up. It's like, all right,
there's a moment. Yeah,
which you get. I mean, that's like, that's a horror. It's one of the more annoying horror tropes. I can't stand that. And when a friend comes up and puts their hand on your shoulder, it's like, who does that? Who unannounced does that?
Because it's like I gotta do another review on, but I remember it was all right to me. I didn't think it was terrible, but I know everyone loved it. I gotta give it a second review, but I will say that I say this earnestly because not much gets to me, but when she's on there on the fucking laptop and all of a sudden the ghost is like right next to her, she turns her head. That shit fucked me up. I was like, oh shit. So jump scares can work,
as long as you aren't solely dependent on jump scares to generate your fear and atmosphere, then I think they're fucking great. I was just thinking about this. Every classic horror movie that people love, that nowadays they'll hate on James Wan and all the jump scare movies, all those movies had jump scares. From Halloween, Poltergeist has jump
Oh, yeah.
scares.
Psycho.
Fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The
Friday the 13th.
music, the sound design alone is designed to scare you that way. The way the music just cuts in, that it adds to it. Yeah.
There's one thing I did not like about it was the music. Like it did what it like. It was too forceful in the emotion it was trying to evoke. You know, with like, oh, he's running. We better have some crazy orchestrate shit going on. It was just, I don't know. It didn't really fit. It seemed too over dramatic or epic for the tale it was trying to tell. You know, like it helped. It definitely did with it.
They got the memo that this was a horror movie, and they were like, "Okay, let's make horror music."
Yeah,
no, it's a thriller. It's a thriller.
I just realized I've had my notes over the comments for a little bit, so let me see what we got going here. Allison Troy says, "I had a friend who came up behind me and touched my shoulder. One who got punched in the junk." Exactly.
There you go, Allison.
You know what's funny is Oculus had that scene in it when she's sitting there looking at the guys, the statues and the sheets and pulling them off. And that guy comes up right behind her. Hey, we got this shit ready for you. What the fuck? But it worked a little bit better in that one. I don't mind a jump scare. Insidious is one that I think of that it's fun. When you have a movie that's giving you a bunch of effective jump scares and like keeping you into it, those are fun movies, especially to watch with a crowd or with other people.
It's like Link said in Smile. Smile's the one where she goes to that party and that shit happens, right? Where they think she's crazy at the party and stuff.
Yeah.
I found that incredibly scary.
Yeah.
Without it being trying to be scary. Like, I mean, it was trying to be scary, but it was horrific.
Yeah.
Sexist, bro, you know, like that. It was like, you didn't know what she looked at. It might have been a random fucking silent face, you know. It was a very orienting scene. But yeah, that movie could have used some of this, or Stir of Echoes could have used some of what Smile had going for it.
For sure.
Well, we haven't gotten elevated yet, Steph. We weren't elevated.
All right. Fable, you got any more thoughts on the ending of the movie, the way it all wraps up?
I mean, I agree with Steph. It was entertaining, but at the same time, it was dumb as hell. You know, it's like, oh, I don't want to go because of the feathers. And it's like, oh, shit, shoot the gun, the pillow, the feathers. Oh, my God.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I like the feathers.
The feathers was silly, dude. I'm
like, we had that, bro. Like, I was like, all right.
But, you know, it's unearned in a lot of ways because you don't get the sinister tone from those kids ever throughout this entire movie until they're fucking bad kids. Right. We didn't even know them for the half.
Right.
Yep. You know what I mean? And the neighbors too. They were his good friends for the majority of this movie. All of a sudden, we toting gats and shooting motherfuckers, and we murderers out here. Like, you know,
I thought this was a good neighborhood.
And it's like he didn't know. He didn't have no clue that his friend's a little off. The guy, I mean, you just don't bury girls and, you know, ready to shoot your boys and shit like that if you're not a little sinister. So it's not earned in a lot of ways, but it is entertaining.
Yeah, they sell him as more of a pervert than anything else. Like, you don't like the guy; he's a shady dude, but you're not expecting him to be burying girls.
Cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Link, you got anything to say before we go ahead and rate this bad boy?
Man, it's a product of its time. It's worth it for, if you've never seen this before, I think you will be highly entertained.
I'm with you. Stu, my brother. Again, as soon as we wrap up these ratings, we're going to give you guys the option and tell us what we are reviewing or doing next week. It could be horror trivia or one of the 4 or 5 movies that I have selected. This is pretty much like the same way I gave Stu a pick for Horror Fest. That's what I'm doing for you guys for the pick. Which I like how you
covered yourself there. Good job.
Stu, I would like to let you know I think about that often. And if you want to pick another movie,
I hope it haunts you, fucker.
It does. It haunts me in a way that this movie didn't.
You're like, you got to choose it too. Yeah, but from a list of movies.
You feel me, Link?
We can fix that.
I gave Lincoln people their own choice, but hey Stu, there's 2 movies, motherfucker. you chose Maximum Overdrive. Don't think I forgot about it.
That's not what it was. I swear to God, it's more complicated. It's more complex than that. But...
I told look, I confided my wife, and my wife was like, "Is it because you chose Maximum Overdrive?"
No, it's because I fucked up. It's because honestly, speaking of obsession, we could make a movie on the way I was obsessing over the fucking Horror Fest list. It was a horror show. It was like I really was like waking up in the morning like Horror Fest list, like it fucking insane. It took over my life for like 2 weeks because I love it. I really love it. I love picking out like the order of things. Oh, we can't miss that. Yeah. We got to get this in. I enjoy it so much. Stu, my brother, what's your rating? Final thoughts.
All right, so final thoughts. This is I think a movie of what could have been. So I'm gonna a strong performance from Bacon. I thought his wife also turned in a strong performance, but ultimately I thought this movie could have been a whole lot better, given the themes of what we're touching on and what we're trying to get across. So I'm gonna go 3 out of 5 for me.
I like it, brother. I like it.
Yeah, that's
3 out of 5 from Mr. Stu. Where you at, Fable?
I'm right there with Stu. 3 out of 5. Backlogs, whatever, slips, whatever you want to give this thing. 3 out of 5. Yeah, Bacon carries this thing. Absolutely. I think the wife is good too. Link said it earlier. The performances are strong minus the children.
Totally.
Yeah. No. Wait, I almost agree with that. No. Shout out Zach. Zach, if you're watching this, bro, we love you. I know you're 30, dog, and you're going through it because this is the one and only. But bro, you killed this shit.
Oh, you're talking ZDC? ZDC?
I'm talking to ZDC, yo.
Talking ZDCs.
You know he's got to hang up too, but he's like that motherfucker. Jake Lloyd got 2 movies.
Yeah.
God, don't go.
I could have done that. Yeah, I would like to hear this kid say those words. Are you an angel? See how he does
it. But yeah, man. It's good acting, well directed. You said it before, Verno. I think it's solidly directed. I just think there's a lot of script issues and pacing issues. I think there's some pacing issues, and it's just a little too predictable to be the mystery movie it's trying to be.
That's probably my biggest thing. Because you can make a horror movie that isn't scary like most of the fucking horror movies we watch, but make a mystery and have it be that predictable. Even for me, then you lost something there. But where you at, like?
I'm right there with the fellas. I will bolster up just a smidge to a 3.25 just because I think there's something to be said about as a first watch. I think we all kind of remember like back in the day, like we had good memories of this being the shit, but
right. I think it's important to remember that this came out the year after The Ring. And we talked about how influential that was on American cinema. We all went through that era with all these movies that got more intense. No, Ringu. The Japanese one.
Oh, okay.
Which I think there is a touch of that in this with the way like she's like twitching and shit. But anyway, my point is we've lived through an era where ghost movies became so fucking popular that they've upped the level so much that it's hard for us to go back to 1999 and feel how it felt in 99.
But I still think there's something to that. Like I think this is maybe a perfect entry point for like kids who might be interested in horror. This isn't too scary or too intense. Like it's flirting with the horror genre. So like I think as a first time watch or like for like children, that this is a great primer for horror.
Totally, that's a great point.
That's a good point.
There's no titties, no sex.
No, there's
but there's some
sex.
Oh, well, even better. Okay, fuck it. Let me find.
My boy favorite clocked in, right?
So, he's having flashes of a dead woman while he's with his wife. What do you call that? It's different.
Menage a trois. I don't know.
No, but if you're 12 years old, not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah,
right.
It's just enough. You're like, ooh,
I think I like girls now.
So that's got. But I gotta give it some credit for that. At 3.25, it's a product of its time, but I do think like upon a first watch, people will be highly entertained. This is not a movie you watch upon multiple. You will definitely start picking it apart if you start watching it multiple times.
Definitely.
But it's a good primer. It's a good horror primer. And it's got great performances all around. But yes, the Baconator does stand out as he usually does.
Right. Well, that's kind of because I'm going to give it a 3.25 as well. That's where I was at coming into this. A lot of times I'll give a little wiggle room depending on our conversation. You know what I mean? I might bump up a 2.5 or a half point. I think we've all, you guys feel exactly the way I felt. And I think the Bacon does give it that little extra for me to just bump it up to a 3.25. but a 3.5 from Allison Troy, a 3 from Rogue Collecting, 3.5 from my man E. Zedick, and a 3 from I can't help myself, man. I gotta fucking do it. I can't help it. It sounds so good.
Bad. Yeah, it's terrible. You gotta get rid of that, man.
Yeah, he'll be fine. DJ Zedick. He's lucky that I don't go into my whole spiel. He's because he rocks that station that slaps you across that fat ass with a fat dick. That's what I want to say. That's what I want to fucking say, but I don't.
Doggy style skits.
All right. Get some bubble gum in this motherfucker. All right. Where we at? So what we're gonna do now. So again, to recap, 3.25 from Link and I, and a 3 from Stu and Fable. All feel pretty similar about this thing. And I would like to point out the person that picked this movie last week in the chat. Inja the Benja has not been here to defend this entire time. Good, where you at? What the fuck? She's usually always here. All right. So again,
I didn't see her this week on Spring Clients. I hope you're well.
Right, yeah. I'll say maybe she's got the sniff. You shitty shit. Look at her. Great pick, AJ. Hey, it made for a fun watch, a good conversation. Like I said, I do we need to watch more of these. I want to watch a variety of the biggest variety of movies that we can and review. So a 90s ghost story, I was happy to have it in here. I love that you popped up as soon as I said
that's beautiful.
So all right, again, this is what you guys are going to vote on. Everybody in the chat gets a vote. Everybody on the panel gets a vote. We could either do horror trivia, which will basically be a laid back thing. We'll just go through my cards. Maybe I'll make a slide and we'll play some kind of cool game of some sort, but it'll be more of a hangout next week before Horror Fest rolls on or begins. Or we could do Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, the first film of Dario Argento's. And we could do this. Robbie probably won't be here to defend it, so we could really fucking pick this thing apart and just kind of piss him off if he watches on the rewind. Jeepers Creepers, big franchise that we have not fucking sniffed, haven't touched. It would be interesting to do that one. Killer Clowns from Outer Space from 1988. Rope from Alfred Hitchcock from 1948, which is a banger movie. It's a really fun movie, and it's only an hour and 20 minutes long. You can't beat that with a wiffle ball bat. Again, Trivia Night, Halloween 2, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Jeepers Creepers, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or Alfred Hitchcock's Rope. So we don't have a single vote yet. So go ahead, dish it out. You guys dish it out while we go around. If you guys want to think about it for a minute, Stu, do you need to think, or do you have your vote in?
So I'm gonna
hold on. Let me get something to write on real quick.
Yeah, man. I'm ready.
Oh, man.
All right.
So I just watched a Unsolved Mysteries series on Netflix, right? And they had a episode on the Mothman, and the whole time I was watching it, it reminded me of Jeepers Creepers. Ooh. So my vote is for Jeepers Creepers, man.
Jeepers. One vote for Jeepers Creepers.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to vote at the end, by the way.
All right.
One vote for the Jeeps.
I'll be right back.
He'll be right back. 2 votes for Stu coming right back. We got 2 votes for Rope down in the chat. Holy shit. I was not expecting that. Rope coming through.
Well, let me guess. It was Pedro and Allison.
It was Rogue Collecting, Allison Troy, and E from 9-panel grid have all picked Alfred Hitchcock's Rope. I'm proud of this chat. Part of this was I wanted to test the chat. I wanted to see where we're at and what our interests are. So I'm interested. That is something I didn't think anybody would want to see. But we may not be doing it. We got a lot of votes to go. Fable, do you know what you want? You want me to run through them? I'll just scan through
No, you don't have to run through. Half of these things are not my thing anyway. Poop, get away, guys. Get out of here. Waste of time. Anyway,
waste of time. None of them are waste of time.
Especially that one. Anyway.
Which one? This one?
No, not that one.
That one.
No, not that one either.
Which one? Oh, Clowns?
Yeah.
I can see that. Steph and I reviewed that on Dylan's Horror Show before.
I'm stuck between horror trivia and Rope, but I'm going to go Rope because I definitely want to see. We watched a lot of horror movies from the 70s. We watched a lot of 80s, 90s, 2000s. We've watched things from like way back in the days, like, you know what I mean, like Mummy and Dracula and stuff like that. But this era is interesting.
And I'll say this is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, I don't think anybody, including me, would call it a horror movie.
But
it's thematically dark. Like what's going on in the movie is like, oh wow, that's fucking twisted and dark. It's a dark, suspenseful thriller, which is it's what most of Hitchcock's movies are, but this one's a little bit darker than a lot of his non-horror movies. That's not the second.
Yeah, I know I'm not gonna get the gore. I know I'm not gonna get the all of
you're not gonna
that
get
stuff.
a lot.
But I do appreciate Alfred Hitchcock's directing sense and all of that stuff. So I definitely I'm interested. So yeah, I'll go for Rope too.
Nice, man. All right. So that is 4 votes for Rope.
Damn.
1 vote for Jeepers Creepers. I can't believe it. I'm blown away. Steph, where are you at? Allison Troy says, big old Hitch fan.
I'm not mad at it.
Just I'm sorry, Steph. I'm down for anything that isn't Halloween 2. I haven't done anything wrong enough to earn sitting through another Rob Zombie film. My point is why I put that one on here is we covered the first one last year. I don't want it to be 4 years before we get back to the second one. So that's why. But we're doing it after Horror Fest, so I'm fucking fine with not doing it. Sorry, Steph. Where you at, brother?
I'm gonna let some people down and back some people up at the same time. I'm going with Jeepers Creepers.
I figured you might.
I feel like Rope is a little pretentious, just a little bit. I still want to see it, but I think Jeepers Creepers would make for a much better conversation. On it's an interesting horror film, but on top of the whole conversation of people being to separate the artist from
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I mean, not to go too deeply into that, but I just think there's a lot of people that I find it interesting just because there's a lot of people that, I remember seeing this movie and really enjoying it, thinking I saw it at 13, mind you, but I'm a little scared of this shit.
My wife just came in with a note that says, "I vote Jeepers Creepers," and she's your age, Steph. She's
I think that's
yes.
The wife's vote's got to be worth like 4 or 5,
that's
right?
Like 2 or 3, twofold. It's like that's 4 points essentially. It's double everybody else. I would say,
so we win.
But I just seen this movie get a lot of shit just because people attach the director to it, but it's speaking on the work, so I think it is an interesting conversation. Or
if you end up with Jeepers Creepers for whatever reason, you know who would love to do this movie with you?
This is another reason why I chose it.
Big Herm.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Big Herm would be very interested in doing that movie. Just put it out there if it's chosen.
All right. I don't think it's got it because it's already lost. Rope has 4, Jeepers Creepers has 3, unless I were to pick Jeepers Creepers, which I could do just to keep it fun. But that would be the last one that I would probably pick. Inja, you in here? Did she vote? Inja.
Now she disappeared. Just so we need her.
Please.
We got Rogue saying, I watched Jeepers Creepers last Halloween. It was different than I remembered. I only saw it for the first time a few years ago. I just want to hear everyone doing Jimmy Stewart impersonations on stream. Yes, we'll definitely be doing. There'll be plenty of that. There's no doubt. I saw it in 3 theaters. It hits different once you know all the behind the scenes.
But then that's the whole argument. People can't separate the art from the artist. Like if you enjoyed it the first time, based on something you learned, shouldn't hinder that enjoyment from it. Like
Usually I would be like, no, and fuck no. And don't get me wrong, I still, if I watched it, it wouldn't hinder my experience. But with his, it's a little bit more extreme than a lot of people's. It's like legit child molestation charges that he's. Unless I'm mistaken,
you can't like any Quentin Tarantino movie if we're gonna go that route.
That's not child molestation. That's licking toes. I don't give a fuck about him.
It's assault. It's assault, and it's the worst kind of assault with him. But the person Harvey Keitel, who backed every one of Quentin Tarantino's movies, backed a lot of great movies.
Well, that's another good point, because then you're going, how far removed does it get? Because if you don't want to review Jeepers Creepers because of that, then you're fucking over Justin Long, and it's like same thing. If you won't do not Keitel, Harvey Weinstein.
Sorry.
If you don't want to do any Tarantino movies because of that, then you're fucking over Tarantino. So
or that other guy. What was the guy from The Usual Suspects?
Bryan Singer. You can't X-Men if you go based off Bryan Singer. X-Men's the shit. You know,
I was thinking
I would stand by
House
that.
of
No, I
Cards
would,
guy.
and that's why. I mean, and don't get me wrong.
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, I put it on the lineup. I definitely, I would do it, but it's one of those things. Here's the way I look at it. A lot of times, like some shit, like when we do Hitchcock, I'm not going to sit there and be like, just so you know, once upon a time, somebody said that he was mean to him, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go through like why we need to cancel him, which is what a lot of podcasts would do. But the Jeepers Creepers one, I would have to. I would 100%, we'd make it a point. We would point out what the guy did and we would talk about it and move on. And that's because of the seriousness of the situation. I'm anti that shit. I don't want to have to do that. But
yeah, I didn't even know any of this. Like in my humble defense, I didn't even know. Like
Allison,
I feel like we've strung people out long enough. Ropez for Jeepers Creepers has 3, and I would have voted, or I will vote. It's not going to matter. For horror trivia, just I fucking love doing horror trivia. Take a week off, but I could not be more excited that instead next week we will be covering Alfred Hitchcock's Rope.
What does Robbie say? The way forward is not the way back.
Which I
own is so far back.
Which I own 2 copies of. There it is, right there, folks. It is not streaming fucking anywhere for free. It was just on Amazon Prime a little bit ago. But
oh damn, we might have to switch the movie then.
Nah, I got you. I'll hook you up, man. I'll hook you up with my digital download code, and I'll hook you up. But that's gonna do it. That's gonna wrap this bitch up. But we do have. I got this as well. What am I doing? Get your shit together, Verno. Last night, you guys never believe what happened. Dr. Doom. They talked about him. It happened. I assume it happened.
Tell
people you weren't there.
I was the first to comment. I don't know what you're talking about. Look at the records.
Whatever.
I was there.
I know a ghost when I see one, Verno.
Man, he was just waxing poetic about Doom for an hour.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, congratulations, guys. Yes, we discussed Secret Wars, one of our best shows ever, and only like 3 of you peons were there to
go watch it on the rewatch.
Ninja, if you were there silent watching, shame on you as well, because it was one of our better shows.
I've got an interesting theory. There's been a lot of drama going on. I feel like everybody's kind of tuning to being some drama Nancy's right now.
God forbid we talk about comic books.
Yeah, God forbid comics.
But yeah, man, we did the lead into Secret Wars and the first 4 issues. We're gonna conclude the series next week, but it just felt like the time was right. Yeah, proud peon. Thank you, E. I would highlight that comment if I could, but thank you for coming through. Our boy Fable was there, of course. Vern was there in the beginning, as he's noted. But yeah, y'all come through next week. We're gonna wrap up Secret Wars. Enjoy more Link's wonderful musings about how this is going to affect the MCU and how it might come to light in the MCU. I always enjoy. That's one of my favorite parts. Link and his encyclopedic knowledge of the Marvel Universe and how this might come to play and the movies of the future. So regardless, come learn some history. Come hang out with us. It's one of the best comic book events of all time.
And we're a comic show that actually talks about comics, bro. Like they're very red, no shots, but it's just facts. A lot of comic shows out here don't talk about comics or the love. We actually do that shit. So if you enjoy that, come check us out.
Yeah, man. We're an endangered species. Put us on that preservation list.
Hell yeah.
Here.
Fable, you're not doing a show tomorrow night, but you're doing a show next Friday. Do I have that right?
Yeah, we're gonna do our season finale on the 16th. Because Nick couldn't make tomorrow's show, so I decided, I can't do a finale without Nick.
Can't do it.
I need Nick there. But I invited a bunch of people, man. My brother Stu, of course, going to be there. Nick's going to be there. Missing Link Comics confirmed that he will be there. I got Big Herm coming back as well. I got Spilio joining us. He's going to come hang out with us. I got Mike Hags in the building. And I don't know if you heard our new intro. We got like a rap song going on now with our new intro video. Well, I got the guy who made that rap coming on to hang out with us. Yeah, so it's going to be a good finale, man, because I got to get focused on this move. I got to really, really put this stuff on pause. So let's go out with a bang. Friday the 16th, man. Come hang out with us. One collection down. Let's do it.
Hell, motherfucking yeah. Hell yeah, man. I'm excited about it. All right, so that is next Friday against Supreme Clientele on Wednesday nights at 8:30 Eastern time. And next week, Thursday at 8, Rope. the last thing we talk about before we dive in to Horror Fest 2024. Again, our opening for Horror Fest. Steph and I will be over on Robbie's on Monday for Paranormal Activity, and then here on Blood Splatter Chatter. That's the whole franchise, by the way. And then here we're opening up with Carrie, Brian De Palma, and Stephen King's.
How many films? How many films is in the Paranormal?
7.
Unfortunately, bro, y'all are watching 7 movies for that show.
Did you? I do it twice a year, man. Did you start, Steph? Did you start watching? No. I started a couple weeks ago, man.
They're gonna watch the same movie 7 times, remix. Like you get one song, and it's like 7 different DJs remix it. That's what you get.
Yeah, we'll just show this in a different way. So, yeah, it's
more or less.
So that franchise.
I've watched 5 of them so far. Should be interesting.
Wow.
I kind of forget when the horror, because I just remember Robbie talking about how it starts so soon after Action Fest ends. I was like, does it start immediately as Action Fest ends? So I was like kind of panicking Monday, thinking, because I was waiting for someone to drop something in the chat, like like to see if I had to watch 7 movies in the next couple hours. Exactly. But no, I'm gonna start that this weekend.
I would hope so. You better start it like now. You should have been watching one while we reviewed this.
Good luck, bro. You're gonna be so tired of like
I'm not gonna
an ankle around.
It's a copy and paste review. Like you're gonna, I hate to say it, but we're gonna have a lot of similar thoughts for each movie.
The first 2 are generally the same. It's like the same movie, there's really no difference. The third one's like the same as the first 2, only the time period's changed. And
the fourth one's the same as the first 3. Only it's got Catherine Newton in it.
The first one had its place.
They have their place. I'm looking forward to talking about it because I'm curious about. I think everybody that's going to be on that panel, this isn't like their cup of tea. Besides maybe Inja. Inja's going to be on there. It might be her cup of tea. I know she's doing a couple. I thought maybe that was one of them.
I don't think she's seen the movies she's trying to do. If I'm saying that correct, Inja, correct?
Was it like The Prowler? Inja, we know you're here.
Oh, that would be funny.
Yeah. Can I suggest one thing though?
Suggest
it. Consider doing a special sideshow if you I know you don't have no time, Horror Fest and all that stuff, but if you can, maybe we should do Jeepers Creepers, and maybe we should try to get Big Herm on, and maybe we should tackle this little art subject. I think it'd be interesting.
No, for sure. I mean, I don't know if it'll happen during fucking Horror Fest because I'm setting up a bunch of different shit on different Sundays, but 100%. Well, I'll just mark it down now. I was planning on doing it because last year after Horror Fest we did November. Probably a little corny name, but I like the idea of being able to catch up on a bunch of the new movies that came out this year all in one month. I don't think I'm going to do that this year. I think that's something that we'll tackle on Sundays. Steph, write that down. You know what I mean? We'll do some double features on Sundays. So that way I don't have to be tied to a theme for another month right after Horror Fest. But yeah, mark it down. Do you guys want to do Jeepers Creepers? We'll do it after Horror Fest, 100%.
I think it'll be interesting for sure.
All right. Yeah, well, I appreciate all you guys in the chat. Rogue, 2 Gun Pedro, Stu Double Dipping, chat and panel, Allison Troy, 9-panel grid. Wouldn't call him Easy Dick. Never. Would never do that. I wouldn't fucking do it. Brother Joe, Inja the Benja up in this.
Love you guys, man. For real. Thanks for hanging out with us.
You guys are the best. And Kenneth Bird as well. So we appreciate yous, and we are going to get up out this bitch. We'll see you next week. For Rope.
That will be quite enough of that.